Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria. Welcome to my channel. So this is number 9 in our Astrology Studies series or playlist. Sort of a spur of the moment decision to do this video because I was thinking about the whole, learning astrology stuff. So we have covered the planets, the signs, the houses, the elements, as well as the elemental qualities in Western astrology, and the numbers or numerology or number symbolism in astrology. And those are all important things to learn. And those are things that you kind of just have to get to know, or, if you just memorize, if that works for you, do that. But that's information that's important to learn, however, or whatever learning strategy works best for you, because we're all different. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I really learned astrology, how I also came to understand what the planets, the signs, the houses, the elements, and the numbers mean in astrology. I mean, I had a basic understanding already. I have a degree in classics, so the mythology behind it, I already had that basis for it. And just other things like tarot, I was familiar with, number symbolism, as well as the elements and so on. So I had other interests and things I've studied that came into really learning astrology. And this is more about a strategy that I did. Now, I'm just someone who likes to figure out puzzles. When I was a kid, I used to want to be like a code breaker and translator, hence a lot of my language interests. Like, I like looking for the patterns in things. I'm really good at finding the patterns that are there and the patterns that are not. That's a key sometimes for solving puzzles. So when I was studying astrology, I just did what I naturally do, and I started looking for patterns. And yes, there's reading charts, like my own chart, family members' charts, close friends' charts, etc. That's very important. But how I really learned astrology, like where I was forced to kind of bring all that information of the planets, the signs, the houses, elements, numbers, etc. together, was by working it backwards. So what I would do is I would read horoscopes. Started with reading my own horoscopes, right? Because I know my own life. That's helpful. And I would try to figure out, why did the astrologer write that? Why did they say that? Nowadays, probably most of it will be online. I would look at some online horoscopes, and then there would be like horoscopes in magazines or newspapers, things like that, because there's a reason they say what they say. Now, some astrologers are really good writers, and they can write it like in eloquent prose, almost poetically, and others are just really like straight to the point, right? So it depends on what you're reading, whether it's like they're writing for a magazine or it's a personal website and they're putting horoscopes up. So I have some examples here. Now, this works for both Western and Vedic astrology. If you're looking up Vedic astrology horoscopes, it will usually be by the Rashi, which is the moon sign. Rashi means sign, but usually like moon sign is referred to as your Rashi. You can also read it based on the Lagna, L-A-G-N-A, which is the ascendant sign, which is how I read a birth chart. And sometimes it depends on the span of time that the horoscope covers. So Vedic or Western astrology, like a daily horoscope, is likely going to be focused on the moon's energy and any planets changing sign that day. A weekly one, it's going to be on the short-term planets, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, unless Mars is in a long transit, any conjunctions going on, or any planets shifting signs or in harsh angles, so the outer planets in harsh angles to that. A monthly horoscope tends to be broader because it's looking at a larger span of time, and it's about what changes. So the moon changes sign every 2.5 days. So a daily horoscope is going to focus on the moon, and then anything else going on. A weekly one, like Mercury, Venus, the sun, change signs every 3 to 4 weeks, or the sun is every month, right? So weekly to monthly, those are going to be emphasized along with the moon, and then any of the other planets that are in angles or conjunctions, depending on the time, right? An annual horoscope is going to be looking at bigger things It will focus on longer transits like Jupiter, Saturn, as well as the nodes. Like my annual Vedic horoscopes, I focus on those because the other planets are changing quickly. And those are just imprints of the start of the year, right? They're not 2-hour readings of all the transits occurring during the year. So if you do this method, if it works for you, and this may not be your way of learning and studying, it's not for everyone, but just to give you this extra tool or way to study and learn is to work it backwards. So I printed up horoscopes from different websites. I was specifically looking for some magazines. And when I learned astrology, I did buy like 2 or 3 Vedic astrology books. Like one was this really intense, heavy book by Bepin Bahari. And it's, I mean, obviously, like my own book, that was part of the motivator for writing my own book, Vedic Astrology for Beginners, was to give Westerners something not so like, whoa, overwhelming that you'd put it away and stop studying it. But I didn't buy any Western astrology books, probably because I'd been familiar with it my whole life. And I just used websites to pull up charts to study, and I looked at horoscopes. So what you will need for this is some sort of ephemeris, sidereal, if you're doing Vedic, a Western one. You can buy one online. You can look them up online, or, like I have this has all the transits in it. It's a Western perspective. Or you can just calculate the 24-25 degree difference if you want to do both. So you will need to know what's going on in the sky, and you can probably just look it up. There are also apps. Like I have an app. I never use it, but I have a few astrology apps. And some of them are Western astrology specific. Some are Vedic. Make sure it's astrology, because if you do astronomy app, it's going to be the sidereal positions. So keep that in mind. If you want a Western astrology app, make sure it's Western astrology, not astronomy, because it's going to be different, because the astrology is a tropical system, not a sidereal system. Okay, so there's ways, apps, like I think they're all, I don't pay for astrology apps, or I never have, because I don't really use them. But so you can get free apps, you can look stuff online for free, or you can get an ephemeris book if you like to have the book to look through, which is what I like to do when doing client readings. Okay, so I have some samples here. This first one, this is a really rare example. So this comes from Cosmopolitan magazine, and I wrote notes in it already, so I'll have to fiddle through the book while I'm recording. So this is a Leo monthly horoscope for December 2021. And this one actually explains why he or she is saying this, why the astrologer is saying this. Like she writes, the month begins in fiery solar eclipse in Sagittarius, bringing 6 months of change to your 5th house. The full moon in Gemini is in your 11th house of groups, friends, and your network. I'm just skimming through here. There is a mistake in here I won't go into. But then she says, Jupiter will make his final move back into Pisces. This occurs in your 8th house of other people's resources, such as mortgages, loans, marriage, and shared finances. She doesn't, or I think it was a woman, she doesn't go into the death, change, and transformation stuff. But this is unusual. Maybe it's more common now because I haven't looked up horoscopes online in years. I just did it for this, where it's explaining it. So that's actually a helpful tool to kind of get you started on this method. So that was from Cosmopolitan magazine online. I just Google searched like horoscopes, magazines. What is more common is something like this. So this is a weekly horoscope for Sagittarius in Teen Vogue magazine. Your insecurities are reaching a boiling point, making you want to crawl under your covers to avoid your new crush. Before you run away to your bedroom, though, it's important to remember that you can't hide forever. You'll have to overcome the recent awkward moment you shared with your potential boo. Odds are that this awkward moment seems a way bigger deal in your head than it is in reality. Your crush isn't even focusing on it. But if you ghost them out of embarrassment, then the issue in your head will become an issue IRL, in real life. Get over it, Sag. So you also have to keep in mind where you're sourcing your study horoscopes from, because obviously this is geared towards teens. And it's going to be written for the perspective of the reader, right? So keep that in mind. So that will help you understand the language or how it's presented, right? So let's break this down. So then I would ask myself, and you can do this if you want to try it, is why are they saying these things? Okay, the teen perspective, it's, focusing on love because it's, teen magazines from what I remember long, long ago. It's changed since the 80s. Okay. So this is for Sagittarius. Oh, and another thing to keep in mind, this is all going to be on whole house, whole sign system. Vedic or Western, whichever type of horoscope you're picking up for whichever system you're studying. I did make a video called something like what and how to listen to Western astrology horoscopes, because they have to be whole sign. They can't be where the houses can encompass 1 to 3 signs. It won't work. You can't do a general reading based on that because every single chart, the houses will have different makeup. I'll link that below and on screen after so you can check it out. So the notes that I wrote here. So this week, so this is for the week of November 21st through 27th, 2021. So last week, a week or so ago. So the nodes, so for Sagittarius, South Node is in Sagittarius. And this is based on the sun sign, right? Western astrology. So we're going to assume the sun sign is the first house in horoscopes. So it's a sun chart, not an ascendant chart. So the South Node in the first house and the North Node in the 7th house. So that's the self and relationship access. So besides it being a teen magazine, it has to do with 7th house relationships. But for teens, it would be a crush, someone you're dating, right? So you have to translate it for the age that the astrologer is writing for. So there's that South Node in the first house for Sagittarius sun, sort of pulling away, maybe ghosting, right? That's why those words are put in there. But the North Node in the 7th house is the crush. There's an interest. There's a desire for a crush even, right? So the nodes are significant in this horoscope. And where it says, remember, you can't hide forever. The moon during this week moves into Cancer, which is the 8th house for Sagittarius sun. And that's part of also the hiding energy, 8th house, the house of the hidden. A lot of it, again, is focused on the nodes. And then where it says you'll have to overcome the recent awkward moment. Mercury is in Scorpio, moved into Sag on the 25th, 26th. So the end of this week for this horoscope. But Mercury in Scorpio, that 12th house, could be awkward. Also might bring in some of that wanting to hide or ghost energy. So so that's how I would backwards read a horoscope. Like, okay, why are they saying this? Here's another one. This is an individual astrologer, Rob Bresney, which many of you may know, Free Will Astrology. Great, beautifully written horoscopes. Manages to pack a lot into a small paragraph very poetically. So Rob Bresney, also known as Free Will Astrology. So I pulled up this horoscope for Pisces for the week of December 2nd, so this past week. And he writes, so it's a weekly, right? Originality consists of thinking for yourself. And this week for Pisces, Mercury is in Sagittarius, which is the thinking sign or ideas. And Neptune goes direct in Pisces first house, first sun sign house. And Sagittarius, both Pisces and Sagittarius are ruled by Jupiter. Neptune is the modern Pisces ruler, Jupiter the traditional one. So this Pisces and Sag energy together activated together opens things up. That makes sense. Okay. So originality consists of thinking for yourself and not in thinking unlike other people. And this is Jupiter, Pisces traditional ruler, in Aquarius, the 12th house for Pisces sun, right? Wrote Piscean author James Fitzjames Stephen. Another way to say it, being rebellious is not inherently creative. If you primarily define yourself by rejecting and reacting against someone else's ideas, you are being controlled by those ideas. And so what's going on, that rebellious energy? So you have to break down what's rebellious energy. Okay, Uranus. Uranus currently is in Taurus, the 3rd house for Pisces sun, which has to do also with ideas. It's mercurial energy, it's thinking, it's or talking, communicating intellectual things, right? So that's that, rebelliousness going on. And then it says, please keep this in mind, dear Pisces. I want you to take full advantage of your astrological potential during the next 12 months. So there's a cue, 12 months. What happens in a 12-month cycle usually? Jupiter's in a sign for 12, 13 months. However, Jupiter moves into Pisces at the end of December and he leaves in May. He whips through, right? So he was dipped there, came out, whipped through. But I still feel that 12 months is talking about the Jupiter transit moving into Pisces, because this is a horoscope for Pisces and that can set things up actually for the next 12 years. Okay. So your potential during the next 12 months, which is to be absolutely original. Your perceptions and insights will be unusually lucid if you protect yourself from both groupthink, which is Aquarius energy, and a compulsive repudiation of groupthink. So Uranus rules Aquarius, where Jupiter currently is at the time of this weekly horoscope, right? And the 12th house. So that's tying in. I mean, this is how jam-packed his horoscopes are. I really love them. And I haven't read them in a while. I used to read them like every week for years. He's tying in that Uranus and Taurus in the 3rd house. Like he's talking about a lot of mind and think and idea stuff, right? That's not normally what we think of with Pisces energy, but it's what's going on in the planets in relation to Pisces sun as the 1st house. So it's, bringing all that together. Now it's a weekly horoscope. He's focusing on longer term transits with addition to Mercury in Sag. It doesn't always work out that way, but he's a really good horoscope writer. I'm assuming a very good astrologer overall. And cool fact, a friend of mine actually knows Rob Bresney and is a good friend of his and helped him out when he was starting out, and he wrote horoscopes for magazines, and they would have to go to Kinko's and make a whole bunch of copies and mail them to all the places where he had his horoscopes published. So kind of cool. I know him through a friend, but not personally. Okay. So next examples. These are from Vogue, and actually Vogue India, vogue.in. But it's actually based on Western astrology and the sun sign. This is kind of what it looks like, the web page. I hacked it together so I could print it up on one page. But it's from vogue.in, Vogue India. And they're daily horoscopes. And daily horoscopes, again, will likely focus on the moon and whatever other planets are affecting that energy, because the moon changes sign every 2.5 days. So it's daily moon horoscope for today, December 5th, 2021. So I printed Aries and Taurus. And this is, by looking at this, I figured, oh yeah, they're still going with Western astrology because these are based on the sun sign. And it says that on the website, these are based on your sun sign, which Vedic astrology would not do. It would do the moon sign, the Rashi, or the Lagna, but usually a horoscope will be the Rashi. Okay, we're all responsible for our own well-being, Aries. We're all responsible for the life we create for ourselves. So this responsibility energy, what's happening today, the moon is in Capricorn, the sign of responsibility. So plant your seeds wisely. Replace thoughts of lack with abundance and fear with faith. And some of that is that the sun is in Sagittarius. So this proves to me this is based on Western astrology. The Vedic wouldn't work. It didn't make sense. What Spirit wants you to know is that both your wants and your needs will be taken care of. That's Moon in Capricorn energy. If only you allow yourself to believe in the infinite possibilities that lie ahead. Believe in the infinite possibilities, Sun in Sagittarius. Okay, and then Taurus, these are very short ones. And a daily horoscope, like if it's mainly focusing on the moon and the short-term transits, again, unless there's very significant things affecting that particular sign, are going to be pretty short, but they'll be to the point, right? So Taurus Sun, mourning the loss of a situation is okay. So the mourning energy, Sun in Sag, the nodes or South Node in Sag is 8th house energy for Taurus. So that's mourning. Is okay as long as you know how and when to move on. As long as you know how and when to move on, Taurus. Oh, sorry. They repeated that there. So accept the good and the bad. And that's the nodes being on the 2nd and 8th house axis. 2nd house gain, 8th house loss. You can also see that as like a good and bad axis. Accept your circumstances. Accept what your circumstances are teaching you. That's Sun in Sagittarius, Guru, teaching energy, even though this is based on Western. In doing so, you will be transformed, more of the 8th house energy, right? Sun, South Node in 8th house. And beautiful. It's not written very well, so I'm adjusting it. In doing so, you will be transformed into a diamond. So, and the diamond, I feel like that's moon moving, or I think it's like today moves into Capricorn. The time difference between here and India, so, which is 9th house, which would be like the diamond coming out of 8th house energy. So that's another example. Last ones. So this I printed up from, some Vedic site. I forget. I didn't write it down. Where they give a daily horoscope. So this one is based on Vedic astrology. So these are for today, December 5th, 2021. And it's Scorpio. I printed up it broke it down by like area of life, which often a Vedic one will do. So Scorpio Rashi, Scorpio moon, you could listen to it or read it as a Lagna, a rising sign, but because of the way it's written and it's done on a daily basis based on the transit of the moon, yeah, it would be best to listen. If you read those and do this, go by the moon signs and study it for every sign. Like why is that astrologer saying that in their horoscope? Okay. So general Scorpio horoscope for today, December 5th, it says, you may not be very successful in accomplishing your goals on this day. You will possess the desire to learn new things, but for unknown reasons, things will not work out in your favor. Maintain patience in all dealings. So today in Vedic astrology, the moon begins in Scorpio, moves into Sag, the sun is in Scorpio, the South Node is in, or K2, South Node is in Scorpio, Rahu, North Node is in Taurus. Mercury is also in Scorpio. So that's that desire to learn new things. And there's this, okay, let's get things going. And then, but for unknown reasons, things will not work out in your favor because the ruler of Scorpio, Mars, and looking at the ruler is really important in Vedic, important in Western too, but it's that's the first thing you want to look at in Vedic. Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, is in Libra, the 12th house of endings. It's dreamy, it's spiritual, and that's like, because the energy of Mars and the ruler of Scorpio is just not quite there, right? So I believe it's next week or this coming week that Mars will move into Scorpio for Scorpios. But for this horoscope, Mars is in the 12th. So the ruler's in the 12th, although there's all this energy in the first house of Scorpio based on the moon sign, right? Moon is first house. The oomph of Mars, the energy activity of Mars isn't quite there. Okay, so then there's a Scorpio career and business horoscope, and it says the work front may not be very favorable. So the 10th house of career and work is Leo for a Scorpio Rashi. And Leo is ruled by the sun, which is in the first house of Scorpio with all that Scorpio energy. And the sun is conjoined Ketu, the south node, which can quiet it. Technically, it eclipses the sun's energy, though it's not an eclipse today, right? We just had an eclipse though, and that energy is still following through. You're likely to find that work tasks are kept pending. I think this is because the sun is conjoined K2 and in the wake of the recent eclipse, and this may cause worries for you. There may also be a slowdown in your work. That's kind of repeating the same energy. And then there's a Scorpio love and relationships horoscope. There were more, but this is the last one I printed up. You may lose your cool and tend to show your feelings of anger towards your partner. So remember, the nodes are on the Scorpio-Taurus axis, first, seventh house, and seventh house of relationship, right? So North Node, or Rahu, is in the seventh house for Scorpio Vedically. Okay, so you may lose your cool and tend to show your feelings of anger towards your partner. This may result in a difference of opinion. I think it's just because Rahu is the head of the snake. It's headstrong. It's determined. And, this transit can also make someone get kind of lost in their head. Plus, Scorpio's ruler Mars is kind of quiet and dampened in the 12th house, right? So, and there's so much energy in Scorpio, right? Sun, South Node, Moon, though transitioning out today, and Mercury, right? So it's a lot of like me energy in Scorpio projected onto, and that's losing your cool energy with the partner, with the other. So those are just some examples of breaking down the horoscopes. And this is something I did every day. It was a while ago. This was like 2004, 2005, 2006, when I was really like trying to grasp astrology, where like now I just look at a chart and like, oh, this and this, da 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 da. Yeah, just one way to practice, but that's how I really learned astrology. It helped me to just ingrain it in my brain, and that helped to bring together, the planets, the signs, the houses, the elements, the numbers, how that all comes together. And then the angles and the drishtis, how, it helped me to see how it's all incorporated and can be compacted and summed up in a sentence or a few sentences. Okay. It's a more challenging way to learn, but for me at least, because I like to decipher codes and break things down, I feel like it's a very powerful way to learn. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. Let me know in the comments below what else you might like to learn about in this astrology study series. And probably this upcoming week, I'll do the chart sample readings, kind of leaning towards doing it live. Got to see how the week goes. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, your ideas in the comments below. Thank you everyone for watching, liking, subscribing, and I'll see you back here soon.